All right, let's talk about how you can take your security monitoring to a whole new level. We're going to dive into how to combine two amazing open source tools, Sysmon and Wazuh. Think of them as a power couple for getting crystal clear visibility into everything happening on your systems. Okay, let's get into it.
First, let me ask you something. Take a good, hard look at your system logs right now. Are you really confident they're telling you the whole story? Or are there, these frustrating gaps, details you wish you had when something goes wrong? Yeah, for most of us, those gaps are huge.
And this slide right here, this is exactly why we're talking about this. On the left, you've got your standard, boring log. A process started. Great. Now look at the right. That's a Sysmon log. It's not just what started, it's who started it. Its file hash, the exact command line that was used. I mean, this is the difference between seeing a blurry shadow in the dark and seeing a person's face in broad daylight. It's night and day.
So let's start with the first piece of this puzzle, Sysmon. The best way to think about it is like you're upgrading your security system. You're ripping out that grainy old security camera and installing a brand new, crystal clear 4K camera for your entire operating system.
So what is this thing exactly? Sysmon, or System Monitor, is a tool from Microsoft that hooks deep into the operating system. Its whole job is to watch and record incredibly detailed system activity. We're talking about every single process that gets created, every network connection that's made, any changes to files, all of it, with that rich context we just saw.
Okay, so having all this amazing data from Sysmon is one thing, but you need a way to collect it, manage it, and make sense of it, right? Especially at scale. And that's where Wazuh, and specifically its Agent Groups feature, comes into play. This is our central command console. It lets us build one single configuration and then just push it out to all of our machines at once. It makes sure every single agent is playing by the same rule.
So really, it all boils down to this. We have this superpowered sensor, Sysmon, and this brilliant command and analysis center, Wazuh. Our mission, and it's a simple one, is just to get them talking to each other.
All right, enough with the theory. Let's get our hands dirty and make this happen. We're going to start with Windows. This is going to be our blueprint for flipping on those high-def cameras and getting that video feed piped straight back to our security hub.
And you know what? The process is actually surprisingly easy. First, you just download Sysmon straight from Microsoft. Second, and this is a huge time saver, you grab a pre-made configuration file. The security community has already done all the hard work of figuring out what's important to log. Third, you run one simple command to install it. And last, you just double-check that it's working in the Windows Event Viewer.
And here it is. This is the magic little command that makes it all happen. That's it. You're just telling Sysmon to accept the license agreement and pointing it to that config file you downloaded. Getting started is literally that simple.
Okay, so Sysmon is now up and running on our Windows machine, and it's generating these absolutely fantastic detailed logs. So what's next? We need to connect it to our security hub. We have to tell the Wazuh agent, hey, go grab those logs and send them over to the server so we can analyze them.
And once you're in the Wazuh dashboard, it's pretty much a four-step dance. First, you create a new group. We'll just call it Sysmon. Then you edit that group's config file to tell it where to look for the Sysmon logs. After that, you just assign your Windows machine to that new group. And finally, you import the rules that are going to actually generate alerts from all this awesome new data. Now hold on, this slide is super important. This is one of those pro tips that you'll be really glad you paid attention to. When you're adding new rules, especially from the community, you have to be careful. Every single rule inside Wazuh needs its own unique ID number. If you accidentally add a rule with an ID that's already being used, the whole analysis engine can just stop working. It's a small detail, but it'll save you a massive headache down the line.
Perfect. Windows is all set up and humming along. Now let's switch gears and pivot over to Linux. The goal here is exactly the same. We want that same deep visibility, but of course it's a different environment, which means the process has a few little twists.
So the initial setup on Linux is going to feel pretty familiar. You'll start out using your package manager to grab a few dependencies. Then you'll install the Sysmon for Linux package itself. And just like we did on Windows, you'll give it that XML configuration file to tell it which events you care about.
And of course, we always verify our work. You can run systemctl status sysmon just to make sure the service is up and running without any errors. My personal favorite, though, is tail-f/var/log/syslog. That gives you a live, real-time feed of the logs as Sysmon is writing them. It's a great way to see it working instantly.
But here's where things get interesting. This is where we hit what I like to call the Linux twist. See, unlike with Windows, the logs that Sysmon for Linux creates aren't immediately understood by Wazuh out of the box. There's an extra step we need to take, a translation step.
So you're probably asking yourself, wait a second, I did everything right, I can see the logs being generated on the machine. Why can't Wazuh make sense of them? And that's a fantastic question. It gets to a really core concept of how all this stuff works.
And the answer is actually pretty simple. It's a language barrier. The logs are being written in raw XML, but the Wazuh analysis engine is expecting neat structured fields. It needs a translator to bridge that gap.
And in the world of Wazuh, that translator is called a decoder. A decoder is basically just a set of instructions. It looks at a messy, raw log entry and uses patterns to find and pull out the important bits of info, like the username, the process name, the command line, and turns that unstructured mess into clean, structured data.
And this right here is the magic of the decoder in action. It's the aha moment. On the left, you see that raw XML log. It's just a big block of text, hard to read. But look at the right. After our custom decoder does its job, we have these beautiful, clean, labeled fields that Wazuh can actually search, graph, and most importantly, use to trigger alerts. So let's put it all together. The complete workflow for Linux looks like this. First, you have to create that custom decoder file to do the translation. Second, you create custom rules that specifically look for the fields your new decoder is creating. And third, you tell the Linux agent group to actually watch the /varlog/syslog file where Sysmon is writing all this data.
Phew, we've walked through all the steps for both Windows and Linux, so let's just step back for a second and appreciate what we've just accomplished. What have you actually unlocked by doing all this? Let's talk about your new security superpowers.
I mean, you can now track process ancestry, which is critical for forensics. You can see exactly which process launched another. You can monitor every single network connection from every process. You can see the full, unedited command lines that attackers use. You can spot suspicious files being created or deleted. And the best part, you can tie all this information together across your entire fleet of computers, all from one place. This is an absolute game changer.
Look, when it comes down to it, by integrating Sysmon with Wazuh, you've gone from looking at your systems through a tiny, blurry keyhole to having a full, panoramic, high-definition view of everything that's happening. It's an incredible upgrade. Which really only leaves one final and kind of fun question. Now that you can see everything, what are you going to hunt for first?